Hi everyone, it's Serger Thursday. Today we're going to talk about the general purpose foot and two variations, or actually a couple of variations that they have available for that general purpose foot. So let's get started. Purpose foot. And where did I do with it? Here they are. Here's the general purpose foot. It's the one that comes with your machine. There's not a whole lot of it. The newer ones have two sets of slots for the 8-thread machine, for the Ovation and the Triumph. This slot has two, there's a set here in the back, and there's two of them in the front here that are of different widths. So what is this slot? Let's take a look at this foot. It's the general one, and there's nothing really, well, at first glance there's nothing really awe-inspiring about it. It's like just a foot. Has a couple of features here. Inside you can see these little nubs. Those correspond to a position right in front of the needle. These little nubs come in handy whenever you are using any of the attachments, especially for the 8-thread machine. These feet are easy to change out. You would just raise your presser foot, and in the back, see this button in the back, this black button, if you just push it, the foot drops out. Okay, yeah, move that. There. We'll get that blade out of my way. Okay, and in order to put a foot back in, what you do is you line up this pin. There's a pin right there. Line it up with this. Right up underneath here is like an upside down, like this. So you line up the pin right up underneath and lower that presser foot. And if it doesn't go immediately, just push that button again and see it snaps into place. So if you're doing a seam, okay? I'm not going to sew this because I don't even have it threaded. But see how this line, say I wanted to sew right there on that line, and there's my needle. Okay, if I wanted to sew, heck, let's just do this. Here, I'll put the blade back up, and I'm going to set this up for a 3-thread overlock. Right on this line right here. Okay, I'm going to line up. I'll do it this way. Line it up this way, just so I can see it. Also, when I am stitching, I always want to start stitching with my blade all the way up, because that gives you an extra 1/4 of an inch. Because see, if this blade is down or is in the way, I can't get the fabric any closer to the feed dogs than that. But if you raise that needle up to its highest position, if you can see the feed dogs now, the feed dogs start right here. So if I can only go that way, it's just got a couple of teeth getting ready to drag it. So you can actually get it in closer by holding it, or making sure that blade is at its highest position. Okay, so I'm going, helps to put this down. I'm going to sew. My needle is right here, okay? And I am going to stitch. And I'm sort of blind here. Can't really see it. But it's right on the money. See, there's the line. It's hard to see. You can see that red line peeking out from underneath there. And there, it's perfectly stitched. Also, if you are using that right foot, and I have this on M, let's see, let's mark a 1/4 of an inch. Using this foot, and I'm using that right needle, I want an exact 1/4 of an inch. Okay. Now that's a 1/4 inch seam, because a lot of times people like to do quilting on their machine, on their serger, and it's a little hard to judge a 1/4 of an inch. So I have marked it on the fabric. So let's see where it corresponds on the machine. Okay, again, Here's my needle. Whoop, I'm missing it. Okay, now that I've got it exactly, now what I want to look at too, because to get any speed, is where does the 1/4 inch fabric fall using this right needle. Where it's falling is literally right up against this edge of this outlay, not the inside piece. I am not talking about this one. Not lining it up with this edge, I'm lining it up right here, right with the edge of the foot. That is giving me a 1/4 inch, and let's see if I use that guide and I'm not looking at the needle penetration. I'm a little bit off, just a tiny bit off. You'll see. Get my hand out of the way. Scoot back there. It's a little bit off. So it's actually easier. So it's just inside, maybe just inside that line. So again, following. I had it right at the edge. I'm going to put it right to the middle. Let's see if I get a better stitch. Literally right to the middle of it. Yeah, that's it. Okay, and that is, I got it right at, there's that line right there, and it's exactly right. So, the first time I used this outside edge of the foot as my guide, this time I'm using right here on the top. So it's just a little hair in, and I've used one of those guide stickers, and my guide sticker is right here. Let me darken that so you can see where the edge of it is. Okay, I just darken the edge of it. So there's the edge. Okay, now let's talk about, and of course you could do the same thing with all the different feet, or the different nubs, to get what precise measurements are for your seams. Most of the time I am using this C3 chain, which is this position, and that's giving me 1/2 inch, which is what I normally stitch knits with, is a 1/2 inch seam. And that's, I'm using the chain stitch here, which is the right chain, and I'm using the same edge as how I guide my fabric. Okay, now this slot that's right here in the front, what is that slot for? Okay, what the slot is good for is, say you have a stretchy knit. Well, we'll cut it here. If I were to sew this, say I was using this as a shoulder seam, don't run over sequins with your blade, you're going to dull your blades, so I don't want to do that. So as I sew, it rippled. Okay, to counteract that, I would change my differential feed, move it up to 1.3 to counteract that rippling. But say if this was a shoulder seam, I don't want this happening on my shoulder seam, because the sleeves are going to droop with time, so I want a little more support there. So what you can use on, let's see, 1/4 inch, here's the 1/4 inch ribbon. Sorry for my arm in the way. Now I can use a 1/4 inch ribbon. I can use wider as well, but I'm just sewing, say I'm using a 3-thread seam, 3-thread overlock. This would go inside the slot in here. Let me go closer. Okay, I would feed this in the slot. And then put it underneath, put it all the way to the right. And now I would sew that again. And just let this be the guide. And I'm just holding it over to the right, just so that it catches in the seam. You could also use that the clear elastic. So now see, this doesn't stretch. This won't stretch at all, which is what I want to happen in a shoulder seam. So I usually sew these into my shoulder seams. Sometimes I will put them at the bottom of an arm's eye so that it doesn't stretch out the bottom of the sleeve, which can happen. So this is helpful to have. It will accommodate bigger ribbon. Where's the ribbon? Okay, here it is, hiding behind. It can harbor up to about, I think this is 5/8 of an inch ribbon. So I can take this wide ribbon, and this. Now there's an elastic, a lace foot that also does this as well. So I could, if I were doing cover stitch. Do I want to do a cover stitch? Yeah, let's change this over to a cover stitch. We're back on. Now let's use this with this wider ribbon. This will work, 1/2 inch ribbon. Put this in. And up and under. Okay. So now, oops, I don't want to block cut it. So now we can just sew this ribbon. Now there is a lace foot that has a guide, and a lot of the feet that we have for the machine are essentially the general purpose foot with a little attachment to it, which is what the lace foot is. There we go. You see, well, this ribbon is too wide for this, but you get the idea. The ribbon, yeah, I don't like that. And the stitch isn't right either. Okay, put these in. I'm going to move that needle over. It's missing. I should have used the C2 and C3. And this is what the lace foot does best. And okay. Okay, I'm going to scoot this. Now, again, we're to the teeth. I'm using this one and this one, the second and the third foot. So I'm going to align the ribbon right there so that it's centered on that foot. Oops, I'm going to put the fabric underneath. Get another one. Put it up. A little fuzzy there. Okay, right there. It's centered right there on over the two nubs. And as long as I keep it just visually in line, I think I'm getting it pretty good. There we go. There we go. Can you see that? Let's see. There we go. So you can see it got it right down the middle. Now the lace foot, let me get out the lace foot. And let's see what other of the attachment feet technically are general purpose with a little added twist on it. Okay, this is the lace foot. Okay, the lace foot is that general purpose. If you look at the bottom, it's the same as the general purpose foot, but it has this guide, so I could slide this guide so that I could help guide my lace into it. So this would fit. Pretend that's ribbon. I would move this and my ribbon would fall right here. And so it's a guide that helps you. Otherwise, do you have to have the foot? No. You just have to be more careful again to use your nubs as your guide. Like I said, on the newer machines, which I don't have one, it has this long one, plus, let me raise that up. Okay. This one just has the one slot, where the new ones have got a second set of slots that are closer to the needle, and one is a smaller one which accommodates up to, I think, a 1/2 inch or maybe 3/8 of an inch of ribbon, and then there's another slot on this side to accommodate the ribbon for the overlock stitches. Okay. Another variation of this general purpose foot that I really like, excuse me, I didn't mean to get so close to the mic, is the clear foot. The clear foot is identical to the general purpose foot. This is the general purpose foot, and this is the clear foot. They're identical. The only difference is one is plastic and you can sort of see through it. Although this one's kind of old, you see they tend to cloud up. What I've done with my clear foot is I have taken a Sharpie marker and I have accentuated these little nibbies so that I can see them really well. And I do like this foot a lot. There are certain fabrics you can't use this foot on. It won't like it. And that's going to be any kind of like a vinylized or paint. Some of the painted fabrics, it sticks to the bottom, so it doesn't like them. But otherwise, to be honest with you, I rarely ever use the general purpose one. This mostly sits in the box. I will use, for the most part, this one. That's why it's cloudy and getting icky. So I use it. It has the same slot just like the other one. They work just exactly the same. They make the clear foot for the 4-thread machines as well. Let's see. And then of course, you know, my absolute favorite foot is that open toe foot. I love that foot. And there's the open toe foot, and it's the same thing. It has, let's take a look at that and compared to it. It has an open slot here so that you just have greater visibility, and the lines are already marked in red. So all of those little nubby lines are marked in red. It also has the same slot in the front. I use this one a lot when I'm doing a cover stitch so that I can join up the beginning to the end of the stitch and it becomes invisible. The one problem I have with this open toe slot is that there are some fabrics it jams on, really thick fabrics. It tends to jam right at the opening, so you have to keep an eye on that. But this one is mostly on my machine because I do a lot of hemming. Okay, let's see. Another version that I don't have is the same as I think it's the same as the general purpose foot, but the bottom of it is covered in Teflon. Just like, because that could be used on plasticized fabrics like oilcloth. You could use it on painted fabrics, anything that's going to want to stick to the bottom of the sole plate on your foot. Then you can use that Teflon coated foot, and it's got a Teflon piece in the back. That's a really nice one. I don't have that one yet. In fact, I don't know why I don't have that one, because I would use it. Another variation, I'm going to go ahead and put that general purpose foot back on, and we're going to go back to doing a 3-thread overlock. Because a lot of times I like to do a curve, and I think we talked about doing a curve before. If you don't unthread your needle, you can take your threads, you can take the needles out and not worry about them falling into the machine, and then you clip your thread when you're ready to take it away. That's a good hint without having to fish out your needles from your machine. Because we're going to talk about the curved foot, which is a variation, because now we're going to do some circles. And circles are a pain. And I think I showed you the trick on how to do circles before, but with the circular foot you can get a tighter radius of a circle. Okay, now this is using the regular foot. And remember, whenever you are doing a curve, you keep your fingers in front. And let's see. Okay. Not bad. Did it nice and smooth. Let's do it tighter. Go in a little more till I start having problems. Okay. That's a little tighter, but still good. This one's now harder to do. Okay, yeah, not as good. Okay, now not so good. And if I go even tighter, I think I would have to use the tweezers to pull it. Yeah, it's not working out really well. Well, yeah, no, that didn't work out at all. Okay, let's switch to the curved foot. And what the curved foot is, it's only for the 8-thread machines. It's shorter. So if I put it where the pin is, it's a lot shorter. Where's the back of it? Pin to pin. See, it's a lot shorter. And not having this long leading edge on your foot is going to enable me to be able to have a tighter curve, a much tighter curve. So let's go ahead and pull this and let's see. Otherwise, it is a general purpose foot. This also works really well with the chain and the cover stitch, because you can use your chain and cover stitch to do decorative things. Okay, we can go. There we go. Let's see how. Put down, yeah. It's a lot easier to turn. It was much less stress. I'm not having to pull. And that's a pretty tiny circle. So yes, you're able to get much closer, much tighter curve using the curved foot. I'll just do a chain. Because now you've got this is great for a chain stitch. And you know how they used to have those really gorgeous baptismal gowns that had the beautiful, you'd have the really beautiful chain stitching and it would go meandering around in a curve. This would really make it easy to do that. Just gonna put a needle in here. Okay, I'm just going to do a chain stitch. Okay, it should be threaded for a chain. Let's just see if it is or not. And just do just to start it. Now with a chain stitch, remember it likes to start and stop in the fabric, so. Okay. Got a lot of extra thread here. Okay, so say I was doing a baptismal gown that actually I could just take a really fancy thread like a rayon thread, or even those the pretty heavy designer 6 threads or designer 7 threads or 12 weight or something pretty, and put it in that lower looper or on the chain looper. And so see, I can sew all, and now it's bunching up underneath. Why is it bunching? Sorry, my thread got caught. I'm not taking a lot of real careful time to do this, but you know, this is where I was getting my threads underneath. They weren't under there. Okay, and look how pretty that is. And see, that gives you a nice decorative edge, decorative stitch to your serging, and I really like that. That's a little on the tight side, so I'm going to go. Notice it was, see how that's pulling and puckering? That's because it's why that's happened is because my setting here, when I was stitching, was down there. That's too tight. This is my lower looper, and notice I got that puckering. So I'm going to scoot it up here to where the smaller lines, that's looser tension. And let's go under this way and go around the other way. That should give me, oh, much nicer. It's not bunching. Yeah, much nicer. See, I didn't get that bunching here that I got over here. That's because this lower looper was way too tight. And see how nice that looks. So, any questions? Isn't that neat? Some interesting things you can do with your serger. It's not, your sergers are not just for finishing seams and finishing hems. They do so much more. Okay, any questions? So, we're good? So anyway, I'll see you guys Saturday morning. Happy sewing. Keep on sewing.